I have to say, I'm really liking this series, and I'm excited to keep it going. Here is video 2. And like I said in the first video of this series, history is here so we can analyze what has come before us, just so we can learn what works and what doesn't work. So that's why in this new playlist, video number 2, Prose, Become a Pro at Prose, gives me a chance to break down prose from the pros out there in the world writing books. And today we're diving into, well, more importantly, we're jumping into the fantastical world of Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings, specifically focusing on the first chapter to analyze the prose and see what makes it effective. Now, like the original, we're going to explore how Sanderson's craft influences his sentence structures, how it drives the plot forward, develops characters, and of course, expands on the world. We're going to look at pacing, word choice, and the details that make the book stand out. If you've seen the first video, you basically know what this is about. If you haven't, I'm a developmental editor. I'm a writer myself, and we're going to look through the passages and try to make sure that if something is happening but nothing is happening, what do we do to fix that? How do we drive passages through the POVs of characters? It's so very important to place a POV so that they can experience it emotionally, because, as always on this channel, a narrative is made up of plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what. And story is how it unfolds through the emotional experience of the characters, through their choices and being challenged on their positions. So let's do this. Now, before we get into the craziness of it, all right, just so you know, this is how Way of Kings redefined modern fantasy. What? Is that true? Yeah, I think that is true. That's true for this. All right. But before we get into it, I just want to talk about one quick thing, and then I will do the analyze the prose of prose. Way of Kings, I'd like to just explain what it is. If you haven't heard of it, is the first book in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive series, which was published in August 31st, 2010. I always bring up the year, and the reason is because writing changes over time. The first book we did in the series was The Game of Thrones, and that was 1996. So we're going to see what the difference is between 1996 and, of course, 2010, which, if we do the math, is what? That's 10 and 4, 14-year difference. What does writing look like 14 years later? But if you don't know, this is an epic fantasy novel, and it has become a cornerstone of modern fantasy, widely praised for its complex characters, deep lore, and inventive magic systems. There's one thing we can say about Brandon Sanderson is he's got a lot of time to think about magic systems. Am I right? Sanderson is known for his intricate world building and his ability to weave multiple storylines seamlessly. The book has received critical acclaim, including nominations for the David Gemmell Legend Award, and it remains a favorite among fantasy readers for its accessibility yet richly detailed writing style. Now, two things. First, so Sanderson, the reason that he's really good at writing multiple storylines is because like, for example, he talks about in one of his interviews, he's basically writing 3 stories, right? Because he, for example, Way of Kings is basically Dalamar. What's his name? The other guy. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway. So it's Dalinar, and then the girl, and then, of course, the slave guy, and Kaladin. And he basically, the way he does is he wrote like one story, and then the other character story, and then the third. Even though he does outlining, and then he says to himself, "All right, how do I connect these stories and put it together?" But he does have an outline which helps direct him at the first stages, so it's not like completely in left field or whatever. So let's talk about this. Let's go into analyzing prose. Yeah. All right. Remember, just before we get started, this is for educational purposes only. I'm a writing teacher. an author, and a developmental editor. Oh, and obviously, spoiler alert, because this is chapter 1, Storm Blessed. Storm Blessed. Let's do it. All right, before we get started, what we're looking for specifically is that every line, including dialogue, must have one or more of these 3 elements. They must have plot that drives it forward, character development, or world building. If you don't know what plot is what needs to happen, basically what's making sense, like how is it unfolding. Character development is learning anything about the character or experiencing, and that could be through experiencing the way they behave in the world or respond to the world or witness the world. It's their thoughts and positions that are being created, things like that. World building is anything that's outside what we normally look. If somebody says, oh, he rode a horse, that is not world building. But if it says he rode a horse on a saddle that was for his status among the poo-poo-plah-plahs, then poo-poo-plah-plah-plahs is world building. But saddle and horse is not. All right, let's do this. Oh, we're also going to determine if it's pure exposition, if things are being challenged, etc., etc. And as I said earlier, stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. That's usually if it's just description for description's sake or to exposition for exposition's sake. And these 3 things, by the way, for things to happen, right? Because the narrative is made of plot and story. We already talked about that. Story is through the emotional experience of the characters. So plot, character, and world building has to be through a POV of a character. If it is not, then it is pure exposition and or it is pure description. And that becomes stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. All right, let's do this. I'm going to die, ain't I? All right. Well, Sen asked. He did ask, and he will receive. All right. This is character development. It is also slightly plot related, but it is not informative plot. It is not exposition plot. We don't know what's happening, but he is like, I'm going to die, ain't I? It is drawing you in, moving the story forward, and it shocks you. It's a very good first line. I'm going to die, ain't I? Sen asked. All right, let's keep it going. All right, this is a good second sentence too. The weathered veteran beside Sen turned and okay. So the weathered veteran beside Sen turned and expected him. Okay, this is definitely in Sen's POV because it's the weathered veteran beside Sen. So Sen is noticing the weathered veteran turn and inspected him. So this is plot and character development. It is what Sen is experiencing and recognizing. It's what he is looking at without it saying, Sen looked at the weathered veteran beside him as he expected him. It is straightforward because it's a POV of Sen. So we don't need... what's interesting, though, is I'm sure you've heard this before. The and the are right next to each other, and usually you want to kind of like switch up. This is what I like doing. Like, it's interesting because, like, writers, this is a professional writer with a great record. So what does this tell us? It tells us that we don't always have to be like, oh, I need every starting word to be different. Well, no, you don't. Because literally in the first chapter, we have the and the. Anyway, the veteran. Oh, here we go. Okay. The veteran wore a full beard, cut short. Now, this is description, but it is not description for description's sake. Let me write that down. Description for description's sake. I believe that's correct. All right. Description for description's sake. All right. The reason I say that is because it is still in the POV of Sen. All right. Sen is literally, he's the one that's noticing. Of all the characters in the world, Sen notices that the guy or the person has a full beard cut short. Someone else might notice the color of their eyes. The other person might notice their hands. But Sen, for some reason, decided to pay attention. So this is just pure character development on two sides. We learn about Sen and what he pays attention to, and what is it about the beard and the hair that's cut short? Why is Sen looking at that? Now, obviously, readers and writers, you don't have to go that deep into it, but it is, when you analyze it, like when you go back for a second, third, fourth, or fifth draft, you can say to yourself, well, why is he noticing that? You can, and it could create the character for you. You'd be like, oh, it's interesting that I wrote that he looked at that of all things. Was it me just trying to describe? But it's not. It says from his POV. So the veteran wrote a full beard cut short. And because it's tied to Sen's POV, this becomes purposeful. All right. Okay. At the sides. Oh, here's something else. Okay. What? Hairs. Oh. Okay. At the sides, the black hairs were starting to give way to gray. All right. So this is still Sen recognize. He's like, but if you notice, it goes from the beard, the short hair, and then the sides. So there's a natural, logical. So it's the beard, the hair, and then the sides. And now that tells you something about Sen. That's a choice. The character made a choice to recognize the beard, the hair, and the sides. That is a camera movement. So I'm sure you've heard me talk about camera movements on this channel, where, like, what is the camera looking at? We are looking at the beard, the full face, and we're taking in the face. So Sen is worried that he's going to die, and he's looking at this caretaker, this person sitting next to him, the cat hair. All right. More importantly, I'd like to point out another thing. Traditionally in writing, let me also do this because I pointed that out too. All right. Traditionally in writing, when something is starting, it actually means it's stopping. So, like, they started to do something, but it means they were interrupted, or they stopped, or they changed directions, right? But again, it's Brandon Sanderson. He has a successful book, a successful career, just did $46 million or something crazy like that for like a Kickstarter. You can break the rules. Just because something is considered or suggested, like, for example, the, doesn't mean you have to do that. You're the writer. You're the one who creates the movement. So at the sides, the black hairs were starting. Anyway, so this is the first sentence. This one is plot. This is plot and character, right? And then these two are just character. We haven't developed the world yet, which is interesting. You would think that Brandon Sanderson right away, they'd be like, but no. All right, let's do it. I'm going to die, Sen thought. Oh, okay. All right. This is gonna be a fun breakdown of a sentence. All right. So, I'm gonna die, Sen thought, clutching his spear, the shaft slick with sweat. Oh, and I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Oh, Stormfather. Oh, Stormfather. Do you think Brandon Sanderson sings? Sings. All right, just for the record, this is let me see. I gotta fix this. Clutching his spear, bringing it down. I think this is. Oh yeah, this is all. Okay. I'm going to die, Sen thought, clutching his spear, the shaft slick with sweat. All right. This is more character and I would dare say plot, because, like, we're moving the story. We know that Shen thinks he's gonna die, right? Something is wrong with Shen. And then he says it again. Oh God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, Stormfather. Okay, so this is character development and plot, and then this one is character development and world building. Oh, Stormfather. We have now opened the doors to the first world building point. So if you notice, before we go any further, it has a logical flow to it through. I'm going to die, aren't I? Sen asked. We know that he's looking at the person. The weathered veteran beside Sen turned and expected him. All right. So we know that he's hurt. There's somebody inspecting him, checking over him. And then Sen, while he's dying or hurt, he's laying there and he notices the details of the man working on him, the full beard, hair short. And then we're back to his main concern. I'm going to die, but he keeps it to himself. Sen thought. That's a choice, by the way. He's keeping his thoughts to himself. All right. He's not showing that he's sporadic or crazy right now. Right? I'm going to die, Sen thought, clutching his spear, the shaft slick with sweat. I'm going to die. Oh, Stormfather, I'm going to die. I don't know why there's 4. Should just be an ellipse, right? Should be an ellipse. Anyway. It's weird that there's 4. All right. So there you go. That's technically 3 passages, by the way. These 3 passages accomplish adding one or more of the 3 elements, which is plot, character, and world building. There are really just, let's see, 3 plot points, actually, I would say. There's, I'm going to die, so we're explaining the movement of the plot. He's not doing well. Somebody is checking on him. So this is actually plot and character development. The veteran wore a full beard. This is just character development because we are experiencing the description through Sen. Okay. It's not the. Now, by the way, if this was gone, like if this was all gone like that, and it just said the veteran wore full beard, cut short at the sides, the black hairs were starting to give way to gray, then that would be description for description's sake, and actually would fail the rule. But because it is through Sen's POV, it now has character to it. Then this is I'm going to die. This is more plot, but it's also character. And then this is plot, character, and world building. So there's an example of all 3 in there. We are also, it doesn't fall under the stuff is happening, but nothing is happening category. Why? Well, because it's through the story or the POV of the character. Remember, a narrative is made of a plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how it unfolds emotionally through the character and a character's experience, their choices, and their positions. By the way, we are creating a position for Sen. His position is, I don't want to die. Even though he keeps saying, I'm going to die, ain't I? I'm going to die. Oh, I'm going to die. Stormfather, I'm going. It is, as I would say, creating the position that he doesn't want to die. So now we have to challenge that. Right? Also, in writing, you'll hear this. You don't have to, you're wasting too many words, Like all he has to say is, I'm going to die, oh Stormfather, right? But you need this second thing. So sometimes you got to trust your instincts, because somebody might say, oh, it's too much, this too much. Speaking of it too much, here comes a big chunk. All right. This is going to be, and it has one of these. Oh, yeah. All right. It has a colon. Don't use colons. I'm going to. I hear people sometimes they say, like instructors or people, like when it comes to writing, you get 1 colon, 1 semicolon, and 1 em dash. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 em dashes. Don't listen to people. Okay. You write what you need to write. But the thing you have to make sure that's happening is that you're moving things along with plot, character, world building through the POV of a character's emotional experience. And you have to develop characters through positions and then challenging those positions. All right, let's keep it going. Oh, the veteran asked. All right. This is plot because it moves the story along. We are creating a question to answer. How old are you? They're having a dialogue. The veteran asks. This is still right. Yeah, this is still through Shen's experience. Shen didn't remember. I personally would have did this. I would have did that because it's a new movement. Because this is somebody asking. But this is how he wrote it. All right. Sen didn't remember the man's name. Oh, shit. Oh. All right. So, Let's make this a color. This is a character, all right, and plot. Shen didn't remember the man's name, all right. How old are you, son? The veteran asked. Shen didn't remember the man's name. It was hard to recall. So, by the way, this is also this is plot actually. This is plot and character development. All right, and the reason is because now Sen is saying that he doesn't remember the man's name, which infers that these two actually know each other somehow, somewhere. All right. Okay. And then this is the next sentence. Let's do that. All right. It was hard to recall anything while watching that other army form lines across the rocky battlefield. This is definitely through character, because this is character POV. It's what they are paying attention to. And it was hard to recall anything while watching. So this is character development and plot. Okay. I might give this world building only because the army form lines across the rocky battlefield. It's building the world. It's literally building the world. There's army. Their style of fight is that they form lines and they fight on rocky battlefields. So we're building on the world. But if it was just the rocky field, the battlefield was rocky and filled with lines of men, that wouldn't be world building. But that would be description for description's sake or pure exposition, because it's not through the POV of a character. But this is, because we know Shen's. All right. Now, this is actually Sen's thoughts and oh, here's another example of something. So that lining up seems so civil. All right. This is plot and character development, but it's also a touch of world building, because it's actually pushing back on a position, right? It's pushing back on a concept, right? And it's creating a standard for, say, an army. So if the army lining seems civil. The other thing is, I hear it often on from instructors or other writing people. Seemed or appeared should be taken out of your vocabulary and shouldn't be used in writing. They say, like, it's not affirmative, I should seemed not be used in a novel for writing, right? Seemed, appeared. It isn't. It's because it's vague and it's a weak characterization, right? It's also considered passive voice in some cases, but it's also overused. However, it's Brandon Sanderson and he's using it. What does that tell you? Write whatever the hell you want. It's neat, organized. Now, again, this would be exposition if it wasn't through Sen's perspective. He's experiencing this. He's the one taking note. This isn't exposition. This is things that Sen is actively making choices to take note of. He's noting that he got a question, but he can't even. That's why it's how old are you? The veteran asks, and that's why it's still in his POV, because he heard the question, but then he's still in that moment and he's like being distracted, and it has a logical movement to it. How old are you, son? The veteran asked. Sen didn't remember the man's name. It was hard to recall anything, because why? Sen was watching the other army form lines across the rocky battlefield. The lining up seemed so civil. This is what he's thinking. He's like, without saying, he thought, or he's thinking, or he remembered, right? He's like, why is that happening? It's neat and organized, right? And then he starts paying attention to very specific things. He's paying attention. Oh, this actually might be world building. I'm gonna bold this. It's saying that it should be short spears, but I think he's creating long. Yeah, all right. Yeah, he's creating the terminology of short spears, long spears in his world. So that's world building. But anyway. All right, so that lining up seems so civil, neat, organized. This is character and world building, but I would almost I would say it's plot too, because it's plot because it's moving things around. It's creating momentum. Then he's describing it. So we're learning a lot about seeing. We're creating positions. He's attentive and aware of military regiments, military movement. So we're developing him as a character. We're learning what he understands without telling. This is showing what he is noticing. He's noticing the short spears in the front ranks, and he's specifically saying front ranks. He's using terminology in the way he is perceiving the moment through the passage. Brandon Sanderson could have used any word he wanted, but he used front ranks because the character Sen would recognize front ranks. He could have easily had a character that doesn't know anything about warfare and been like, people are holding short spears in the front. Or why are the people in the front holding the short spears? Or short spears are being like, let's say with somebody else, they might say people in the front held short spears, because it's that choice of words that creates the POV and the development of the character. It's what they are specifically looking at. And they could decipher the difference between long spears, short spears, and javelins, as well as archers at the side. The dark-eyed spearmen wore equipment like Shen's, leather. Oh, interesting. All right, let's do this. It's a long sentence. It's another example. Oh, you guys, it's pretty long. Man, I see sentences sometimes. I'm like, is Faulkner writing this? Anyway, the dark-eyed spearmen wore equipment like Shen's, leather jerkin and knee-length skirt with a simple steel cap and a marching breastplate. All right, so now we know what Sen looks like. We know that the people across are basically dressed the same. This is plot, world building, and character development. And the reason is because it's what Sen is recognizing, and then he's realizing he is also wearing the same thing. So he's putting things together. At the same time, we are building the world because it's the style of dress that the soldiers wear, which specifically leather skirt. And then, of course, actually, I would take away plot. I wouldn't say this is plot, but this is character and world building. All right, so there you go. Look at that. Boom, 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 right? All right, let's do this next passage. Oh, wait, I want to, again, don't use colons. I have to say it like that. Don't use colons. You know what? I'm going to use a colon. Look, grammar is grammar. Write what you got to write, you know? The only thing I say that you should be writing with is allow every line, including dialogue, to maintain plot, character development, and world building. One or more of those elements. Allow every experience to be through the POV of a character. Avoid pure exposition for exposition's sake or description for description's sake, which means exposition. Pure exposition is when it's not through the POV of a character, and pure description is when it's not through the POV of a character. So if I just described the mountain was wide and long with its ruggedness, trees spit through it like splinters sticking out of the arm of a man, that's description for description's sake. But if somebody recognizes it, then it's their POV, and why are they looking at it and thinking of those things? The way it's described is through the POV of a character. So as long as the POV is established, now you could describe something through the POV. But if you describe the backdrop and then it's like, and Jim walked to the gate, but you're like, there's mountains, and the mountains went to the sky, high up in the air, reaching the clouds, crowned by the red clouds ricocheting the sun. Finn walked to the gate. Like, and that's to say, not Finn, whatever, you know, Jim walked to the gate, right? Like, if that's the second sentence, then nothing is happening. Something is happening, but nothing is happening because that description, like, why is it? But if you allow Jim to walk, right? Jim approached the gate. The mountains far in the distance reached up. Now we know he is walking and he's paying attention to things, and it changes the emotional truth in the moment, and it's not just stopping the story. Like, you know what I'm saying? All right, Let's keep it going. Many of the light eyes. Oh, this becomes world building. Beep. Many of the light eyes had full suits of armor. Whoa. All right, let's see. All right, so that's world building. It could be also character development, but we have to see if this passage still fills Sen's POV. But anyway, they sat astride horses, their honor guards clustering around them. All right, so example, horses, not world building. Honor guards, world building. Clustering around them with breastplates that gleamed burgundy and deep forest green. This is world building because the style in which the breastplate. Were there shard bearers among them? Oh, all right. So this is definitely Sen's POV. So everything here is character development plus whatever else it is. So it looks like a lot of world building. This is also now plot, world building, and character development. Why is it world building? Because we just learned shard bearers words. It's not explained, but it is presented. It's a question of thought. So that's definitely Sen experiencing this. And then, of course, plot is moving because it's foreshadowing or creating potential. Bright Lord Amara wasn't a shard bearer. Okay. This. Okay. So Bright Lord. World building. Shot. Oh, we already have shard bearer. This is plot, character, and world building. Do you see how, like, a sentence could have all three? It could have plot, character, and world building, but sometimes it only has character and world building, or character and plot, or sometimes it's just plot, or sometimes it's just world building. But the most important element here is that it's all through the POV of someone. Because even this, were any of his men? This is this is not world building, but this is plot and character. What if Sen had to fight one? Okay, now he's concerned about something, so we're building a position. Okay, we're creating his concern. So that's character development. It's also plot now. Ordinary men didn't kill. Ooh, okay, so this becomes world building, character development, and it also is plot because it is foreshadowing. Ordinary men didn't kill shard bearers. Ordinary men. Okay. So that's world building, but it's plot because of foreshadowing. It had happened so infrequently that each occurrence was now legend. All right. So let's do this. All this is through the thought of Shen. And this whole passage is through the experience of Shen. So now this does not fall under stuff is happening, but nothing is happening because we are experiencing these specific thoughts and what he is observing through the character Sen. Okay. I could be saying that name completely wrong. Please. I apologize. But we are learning a lot as well. Okay. This is more foreshadowing. So this is plot, but it's also world building and it's character development because it had happened so infrequently that each occurrence was now legendary. That's world building, but it's setting up a position to be challenged as well because Sen is remembering his position is that no ordinary man could kill a shard bearer. It could happen, but it was so infrequent that those occurrence was now legendary. That's his position. We have to challenge that, and it does get challenged, right? You know, I'm not going to ruin the story, but you have to. The position is being created. This character Sen believes that no ordinary man or woman can kill a shard bearer. All right, that is a position, but it's creating it through the narrative movement of logical thought. Right? They're seeing the world. They're looking for the shard bearers. Were there shard bearers among them, which creates intrigue and worry. That's something that this character, they can't remember the guy's name looking on him, right? But at the same time, he still remembers what a shard bearer is, and he's actively looking for shard bearers, and that shows you character development, okay? And all of this could have been exposition, pure exposition, but it's not, because it is through the emotional experience of the character. Story eliminates stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. Story is through the emotional experience of your characters. So as long as they're experiencing this and the POV is written in their perspective, you are allowing it to be more than pure exposition or description. It is choices. What they are thinking about, divulging, or seeing, or experiencing, whether it be the cold or whatever, is the character. And that automatically makes it character development, but it also automatically makes it the story. Because again, remember, another character could be looking at this exact same moment. Let's say the sword boy. All right. The sword boy is standing next to the veteran and Shen. And the sword boy stood there and all right, so am I I'm going to die, ain't I? Shen asked the weathered veteran beside but now this is from the POV of the sword boy, right? So an example of this might be let me just write this right here. Boop. Okay. Am I going to die? Sword boy stepped aside, letting the weathered veteran beside Shen inspect him. Okay. So right away, what is the difference here, right? What is happening? Well, in the original, Sen is paying attention to the weathered veteran turning to inspecting him. In this version, the POV is on the sword boy. The sword boy stepped aside, okay, allowing them to do their work, letting the weathered veteran beside Shen inspect him. So the thing that is more concerning to the sword boy is that the POV is being written that he's noticing the immediate thing happening, and not necessarily noticing the gesture of the veteran turning to Sen, right? Again, the sword boy probably would not pay attention to the veteran's beard and cut short hair, but the sword boy, letting the weathered veteran beside Shen inspect him, his hands pulled aside, Shen's what's the leather jerkin, patching up his whatever, his bloody wound. Okay, because the sword boy is paying attention to those things, right? And that's what I mean. Like POV changes specifically what a character is noticing. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm writing the story and I need to inform the audience what they look like, or I need to inform the audience what's going on. It's what is the character looking at? What is the character experiencing? What is the character interested in? And that's what you have to think about when you're creating scenes, when you're allowing scenes to unfold naturally and logically. Yes, you want, in this situation, you want people to know that one of the characters is Sen and one of the other characters is a veteran, but we don't know his name because specifically Brandon Sanderson wanted Sen to be disoriented, which means he wanted you, the audience, to be disoriented, right? And then Sen is slowly processing the world around him, and we're learning about him and the fact that he's maybe slightly disconnected or confused from the situation, but he's still aware of the military truth. And that's different. That's a choice a character is making. So you have to think about those things when you're writing. It's not just description for description's sake or exposition for exposition's sake. Write through the characters, and it'll allow you a much bigger and greater world. Because now you could leave information out. Just because you know it and you want the audience to know it doesn't mean the character knows it. But you can give an experience of something with lack of knowledge, and then you could have another POV come in and inform that information. And that is a way of telling a story, is that you slowly inform or you create. Now, if it was omniscient, you know, literally it would be like Shen sat there unconscious and coming out from his unconscious experience. He barely remembered who the veteran was and tried to make sense of everything. And that's a form of telling. But, so it's nice to see that Brandon is showing, even though there is exposition, it's showing through the choices of what the character is recognizing or paying attention to. It's not just, I need people to know that these characters have short spears and long spears, or that their armor is leather. No, Sen specifically is connecting like, oh, they have the same armor as me. Wait. They seem civil and organized. Are these my soldiers? Are we fighting other people? Like, he's trying to come to terms with what's going on. And obviously, I kept going. Right, even if son, the veteran said, voice firm, how old are you? 15, sir. And what's your name? Sen, sir. The mountainous bearded man nodded. I am Dalit. Dalit. Sen repeated, still staring. Staring out at the other army. There were so many of them, thousands. I'm going to die, aren't I? All right, so we get it, guy. We get it, buddy. Calm down. But again, even if I look at this real quick, Sen, the veteran said, voice firm. How old are you? Okay, so this is a character choice. Just put that there. This is This is character development, but it's also plot. 15. This is plot and character development. Why? Plot is being revealed that he's 15. He's a soldier. Plot. It's character development. How old is he? We have developed the character. The character is a 15-year-old man named Sen. Sen. Sen? Sen. I think it's Sen. Sen? Sen. I've listened to the audiobook, but my brain sometimes. All right. So what is your name? This is a character choice. All right. So this is character development. It is also plot because it is doing what? It is moving the plot forward. It is creating an ebb and flow, right? Sen. All right. So this is character development and plot. The reason is he is calling him sir, so he's making a choice to be respectful. Okay. The mountain is, all right, now this is character development again. All right. Character development, we're describing. Okay. But this is Sen experiencing it. So Sen is like, oh, this guy's huge. He's mountainous and he's bearded man. We already determined that he's bearded. But the reason Sanderson probably put bearded man nodded is to confirm that this is also the veteran, the weathered veteran. So we now know this is character development. The monstrous bearded man is also a weathered veteran. So we know that there's some age to him. And he's like, I'm Dalit. All right. And then, of course, this is also right back to it. Dalit, Cian repeated, still staring at the other army. We know what Cian, as a 15-year-old, cares about. And maybe this is shocking. So now we understand why he's like, I'm going to die, ain't I? Okay. There was so many. Still staring at the army. I think that's what it's supposed to be. There were so many. Oh, actually, no. All right. So this is interesting. So Dalit, he says, and then this is all in his head. This is all thought. It's right, but it's through his POV. Sen repeated, still staring at the other army. There were so many of them. Exclamation, because this is from his POV. He is experiencing this. Thousands. And then he says out loud, which naturally is logically pushes him to be like, I'm going to die, aren't I? Because he's going to be in a big battle. This is a great setup, a great opening, page. Yeah, it's like a page, yeah. And as you can see what's happening, the reason this all works is because everything stays within the POV of a character. You can jump POVs, don't get me wrong. It's okay to do that occasionally. It's just the way you would do it is have indicators like switchers. Like in my there's a moment in my book where the POV is Oliva, but Oliva places Devious into like a chest to hide. And as he gets into the chest, the POV is now on him, and she leaves, and the rest of the scene takes place in Devious's POV. So the switch, the transition, is she helps him in, and then he's experiencing the chest and the door closing, and now we can stay in his POV. So you have to at least give transitions or indicators to do switching POVs. But anyway, maintain an experience of POV. Allow every line to have one or more of those three elements: plot, character, and world building. Avoid pure exposition for exposition's sake. Remember that you don't necessarily have to have italics. This doesn't have to be italics. Okay. Yeah, this is an italic, but I don't have to do this, right? It is what it is. Send repeated, still staring out at them. This is just narrative. But we know it's in his head. We know this is his thoughts and his ideas because it's firm in his POV. And also, if you notice, a lot of the descriptions again are through Sen's discovery. It's what he's looking at. So keep that in mind when you're writing. When you're describing something, how is the character whose POV you're in witnessing an experience? It's not about what fancy word you could use to write. It's not about, what's the most elegant word? What is the word that's pretty here? Because again, you could have a character that might just be like, I like, the tree, it was black. I mean, it was brown and rough. And then you could have somebody be like, maybe it's maybe it's like a scientist, and the way you describe the tree is that you talk not only about maybe the Latin version of what the tree's name is, but maybe the very specific name of the brown and the texture of the bark, right? Because somebody who doesn't have an articulate dialect or dialogue or lexicon, I should say, might just be like, this is brown and rough. But someone who's maybe smarter might get a little bit more detailed. So you have to keep that in mind when you're writing. And that's what makes some of these, that's what makes great writing, really, But again, look, these are little things. They're like, who cares? You want to use the and the in the same row? Use it. You want to use starting? Use it. You want to double up on words? Use it, right? You can do whatever you want. You want to use colons? Use them. You want to use 3 M dashes? Go for it. Don't let those things don't matter. Just do you, write what you want to write, get it out there. The only thing that matters is this, because you want strong purpose to your passages and through your sentences. And you want also, there's logical movement. It's really happening, he thought, with boop. It's really happening. Yeah, that's great. It's really happening, he thought, with mounting terror. Okay, this with mounting terror that is telling. Oh, don't use telling. Telling is bad writing. No, telling, it's show, sometimes tell. Sometimes you need context, and sometimes you just want to keep the pace going. If you tell, the pace keeps moving. We don't need to see him physically having mounting horror here. This wasn't a drill in the camp. This wasn't training out in the fields, swinging sticks. This was real. Facing that fact, his heart. Okay, Here is showing his heart pounding like a frightened animal in his chest, his legs unsteady. For the record, if there's some writers out there and you're like, should I say the heart is pounding? This is Brandon Sanderson. Write the heart is pounding. You know what I'm saying? The heart pounded. But if you know it, he did it like a simile, like frightened animal in his chest. All right. Because that's his voice, right? So the frightened animal in his chest is his unique voice as a writer. His legs unsteady. That's a very common thing to say about that, right? Suddenly, don't use ly words. Use your ly words. Realize that he was a coward. He shouldn't have left that herd. He should never have. Son, and this is great because the internal narrative that is not italicized or thought is interrupted by dialogue. So you can do that too. So I use this. I love this. I love this idea. The narrative gets interrupted. Okay. But again, it's logical narrative movement. It's really happening. He thought with mounting terror. Why? What is really happening and what is causing the terror? So let's do it. This wasn't a drill in the camp. This wasn't training out in the field swinging sticks. This was real. So it's really happening. War. The mounting terror that is explained is that it is not going to be a drill. It is real. Facing that fact. Now, the logical movement is how does it influence him physically? Facing that fact. Honestly, though, like you could take this. You could just go his heart pounded like a fright. You could do that, but this is a choice. This is a writer's voice choice. He's decided, and again, he decided to add that. It's extra words. I don't know why his books are like 700,000 words. But facing the fact, he wanted that. That is his style of writing. But it is also through the narrative POV of Sen. His heart pounding like a frightened animal in his chest, his legs unsteady. Why are they unsteady? And why is that fact pounding in his chest? Because Sen suddenly realized that he was a coward. Right? So the natural logical movement is all this is hitting him, and it led him to realize something. He had a revelation. He processed. His position was challenged. His fear is a position. The fear of dying, right? Which was established at the beginning. If we go up, it's literally it's the position that's created. I'm going to die, ain't I? His position is he doesn't want to die. And it's that fear that he has finally come to acceptance of. Doesn't mean he changed completely. It might mean that he doubled down. It means that he didn't change his position. He's doubling down. I am a coward. And here's the double down. He shouldn't have left the herd. He should never have. He is a coward. His position is that he is afraid. So he's doubling down. Oh my God, I am the coward. And then he's like, I should have never left. And that's an example of challenging a position that was created. And that actually creates movement of character. Anyway. All right. Let me just I have one other thing I want to I want to talk about how things change real quick. All right. Since this was made in what was it, 2010. Writing continuously evolves and it changes and doubles. Okay. So while Sanderson's storytelling focuses on expansive world building, multi-character viewpoints, in this example, we only witness one viewpoint, and a deliberate pacing that allows readers to sink into the setting, modern fantasy writing has seen changes that favor tighter pacing and inclusivity of different perspectives, right? So, broader different variations of voicing. But writers often emphasize more personal stakes and diverse characters, making sure that the narrative voice connects across broader audiences. But you don't have to necessarily do that just because that's where everything is going today. If you want to write your story, whatever you connect with. Write what you know, right? That's what they say. But write what you know is right here, the emotions, your truths, how you understand the world. That's what you know. Write your perspectives, your viewpoints, your ideas. Say something. Have themes. Okay. Not that you have to sit there and go, what theme am I going to write out? But the things that you care about are going to come out in your writing, and those become your themes, you know? So that's something you should understand. And with that, final thoughts. Analyzing these prose is a chance to remind ourselves as writers that this is a journey, not a race. The process of honing your voice takes time and experimentation. And it's by exploring the work of others that we, as writers, find new ways to develop our own unique voice. Remember, at the end of the day, it's literally all made up, the worlds, the characters, the magic. It's fake. So enjoy the freedom you have as a writer. You can literally have characters that have horse heads. Okay. Your goal should be to craft the strongest version of your own ideas using lessons from the past, understanding the present, and your own creativity to build something unique for the future. There is no need to replicate the past or present. Instead, let your stories take their own form. Okay. And embrace what makes your writing different from everyone else's. That's where the true power lies. Okay. Next video in this series, we're actually going to jump to Susan Collins' The Hunger Games. We'll check out that young adult dystopia science fiction. Okay, I'm really excited about this series. Question: what do you think makes Brandon Sanderson's world building stand out in Way of Kings? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And if you haven't done so already and you like what you've been seeing, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. With that said, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.